It's really an extraordinary experience to be that connected with an audience for such a long period of time, an hour and a half, an hour 45 minutes. The audience's attention, the way they go with you, the way they laugh, the way they gasp, the way they get silent, very quiet. You really take the stage, you take it for yourself, you own it, it's your own.
I think Biohazard, a relative comedy, is one of the funniest plays I have ever seen. It is so filled with humor and surprise and unexpected twists and turns that absolutely cannot be believed, except they're true, which makes it all the more funny, all the more resonant, and absolutely unbelievable. You will never forget it, and you're going to laugh so hard it's going to hurt. There's nothing like it.
Hi, I'm just telling you, my name's Marty. Some people call me Martin, some people call me Marty, but my name's Martin Moran, and I am a performer, an actor, but also a singer and a dancer. But I've done these solo shows, which is a very wild thing when somebody gets up and tells from their guts a story from their life, and people think it's funny and hysterical, and also can be incredibly deep and painful. And I'm a guy where some people say, well, I'm a guy who went through a lot of trauma when I was a kid. I was sexually abused. Great idea for a show. Well, it won an Obie Award, it won a Lucille Lortel Award, the two shows that I've written about these traumatic experiences, because the truth is that as somebody who's dealt a lot with mental illness and is grateful for the existence of NAMI, I have to say that it's from our wounds that art can come, because those wounds are the things from which we want to craft something to ultimately give to the world. And so I've done that with these shows in my life called The Tricky Part is one of them, All the Rage is another. And recently I saw a solo artist, Sarah Elizabeth Greer, who made me laugh from the depths of my being and be shaken to the core of my being, because she's also dealing with a kind of trauma and incredible pain and humor, because as we all know, the stuff that really hurts, it hurts, and it's also really funny, and we couldn't exist without humor. Sarah helps us to laugh and to explore what it is, her experience of having been adopted, and the struggle that she's had to find her own identity. The show is called Biohazard, a relative comedy, which is a fantastic title, I have to say. I saw the show, I loved it. You will laugh. It's incredibly healing, and she, like I have done, it can sound so scary that somebody takes trauma and makes out of it 80 minutes of joy and exploration and a human inquiry and tremendous humor. And Sarah manages to do that in her beautiful show. And I hope you'll come see it. And I know I loved it and was inspired by it. So as a fellow solo artist, as a fellow human being who's been through a tough time on the planet, but has come through the other side, as all of us try to do and have, and come check out Sarah's show, support NAMI, and I'm grateful to be able to tell you about it.
I'm Jeanette Barber, and I have been around comedy. I think I've always been around comedy. It's always been part of my life because it's part of who I am, and I ended up being able to work in it. I have 6 Emmys, well, as I like to say, 6 Emmys so far, and best-selling author. I was a stand-up comic, a TV producer, a writer, a radio host, and somehow comedy always sort of becomes part of that. And then I can't even tell you how many years ago I was at an event, and sitting next to me is this woman, Sarah Elizabeth Greer. And I met her, and she sort of filled the room. She's gigantic, just a gigantic personality. And Sarah very consciously wanted her adoption and her whole journey to be part of her art. And I resonated with this so incredibly strongly. One thing I always say, I read one time, if you take a drop of a pond and look in that drop under a microscope, you will see the entire pond in microcosm, right? So I think if you take one human being, and if that one human being completely exposes their soul, you get to see all of humanity. And I think that's the value in this show, because that's what humanity is. There's a rawness, there is a deep ache in every single person who goes through this. And we are legion, we are millions. And yet it's swept under the carpet, and people aren't really thinking about what that means. So I think when you take that art and you can answer the pain, and you can find something to put in the whole of millions, and what better way to do it? Because when you can laugh at something, you take away its power. When you can laugh at pain, you anesthetize that pain, and you can look at that pain. And I think that there is an imperative. I don't think Sarah Elizabeth Greer has a choice, actually. I think she has an imperative to explore the pain that she was gifted as a child, to explore it for her own self-development. But for me, when I'm watching it, I bring that into my development, into my own self-development of recovering from that pain or experiencing life through that pain, however you want to look at it. So I think that art is, because people, what is art? What is art? Is it a room full of dirt because somebody called it art? Well, possibly it is. It's anything that is expressing something that is so deep it cannot be expressed in a sentence. It's deep, it's in there, and it must come out. And that's what I see in this show. When I watched the play the first time, and I saw, first of all, it's hysterically funny. Her physicality, I'm amazed by what this woman actually does on stage. But it opened up something. It opened up emotion. I myself, from my experience of scarring, I'm not open. I don't feel emotion and express emotion and fill a room with emotion. And when I'm in the room and watching Sarah Elizabeth Greer on stage, all of a sudden little things like, boo, 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 boo. It's like all of a sudden somebody's unbuttoning something. And it's like, I didn't even, first of all, I didn't know it was an outfit. So I didn't know you could unbutton me. But here I am sitting in a theater and I am becoming unbuttoned. There is tremendous value in being unbuttoned by art. Tremendous value. Sometimes that's all we can do for the world.
Sarah has a very interesting story to tell, because a lot of people deal with adoption, but they not necessarily have a relationship with both their birth mother and their adopted mother. She's has a very unusual story about that threesome and how that sort of informed her whole life. Sarah Greer and Nami are a perfect fit. She's alive, and you just see the show, and the last time I saw her show, her movements were so precise. It was like somebody who maybe hasn't slept in 2 weeks. So there's all that. It's such a great show. It's a very unique show. Like I said before, this is a story you don't hear every day, of having a relationship with your birth mother for 20 years. A couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I saw Sarah's show for the first time, and I was completely taken by it. I was gripped. It was gripping, and it was just her on the stage for an hour and a half, and at the end of the show, her birth mother came out and they did a majorette routine, and I burst out crying. It was so emotional. It was such a surprise. That wasn't good enough for Sarah. She didn't like that version, even though everybody gave her a standing ovation, and it was remarkable to me. She didn't like it. So she rewrote the whole thing. She did it again. And now she had her birth mother and her adopted mother as Greek goddesses. I thought, well, that's interesting. Okay, I like that. Then I saw it again. And again, it was revised, but it had like texts. Then she had more graphics. It's a work in progress. It's her life's work, this show. It is deserved of Broadway, I think, off Broadway. Take out the off, cross out the off, Broadway, I meant. No, I meant Broadway. It is deserving of Broadway. It is. But
you know, the first time we worked together, it really was a creative experiment. You know, I was just starting out in the field, and Sarah had never incorporated projections in this capacity in her show. But, you know, the first year we did it, we won the Best Comedy Award at the United Solo Festival. The second year we won the Best Multimedia Award. You know, it's a really exciting piece that needs to be seen and needs to be heard. We are so excited at the opportunity to perform it at NAMI, to really perform the best version, I think, of the show.
I've seen this show twice, and there are very few shows I've ever seen twice, but I could see this one again. I want to see it again. It's like being in Sarah's mind, which is, well, it's a really magical place full of joy and energy and perceptions, and, well, the story's about her personal quest, and what's more personal than a personal quest? It's just wonderful. It's Sarah, and we have to make this happen.